Hello and welcome to 5 Year Club video number 201. What? That's right, I have missed a bunch of videos, 12 specifically, because I was on vacation and I just reached a point going camping and traveling to New York where I did not have the bandwidth to keep coming up with a topic and doing a video and uploading the video. Sometimes I didn't have good internet to even upload the videos, and so I just fell off the horse. But I can get back on the horse if I do 4 videos a day for 2 weekends in a row, and today is a Saturday. Clearly there's only one video coming out today, so maybe it'll be like a Sunday, Saturday, Sunday, Saturday, or something like that. Anyhow, I'm gonna make them up. I miss them. It happens. We're moving on. I have not slept very much. I didn't sleep at all last night because I was trying to make flights from New York across the country to get back to California. There was bad weather. I can't sleep in airports. I'm paranoid. And so I probably slept 2 or 3 hours at this point. I feel like a space cadet right now internally. So if I can resemble anything like a normal human externally, that's great. Just thought you should know so you're not like, what the hell has he been smoking? Nothing. Except maybe like airplane peanuts. All right. The trip was fantastic. The New York trip was great. Anyway, let's get down. That's just some general stuff I had to say, get out there. Let's get to the topic of today's video, which is my experience in July and my experience with July spending. July is typically when I do my summer family vacation stuff. And so as that has come around in 2018, I did a trip to New York City, and Amazon Prime Day was also in July. And the combination of all these things just adds up to I spent more money in July than I spent any other month in 2018. When I went to look at, just the overview of how the money was spent, this is that you can see the breakdown here. It's kind of fascinating to me. It's like about 20% of it is on like gifts and donations, like things for other people. So that's cool. Like that's an important category, and if you can work your budget to have that category be that high, and have a high savings rate, then you're doing well. But we'll get to the savings rate later. Shopping, right? I tell people shopping is a waste of time. I have behaved so badly in terms of shopping this month. I have bought all kinds of things that I do not need that I will now have to lug around. I bought a bunch of video games. I'm actually pretty excited to play these, but that's a different video. I bought a bunch of like miniature video game consoles. I can't get enough of these. I'm addicted to them. It's a terrible thing. And this piece right here, this is a wireless controller for it, right? So I can even like wirelessly play my replica old early 90s video game system that I didn't have back then. Of course, it comes with a wired controller too. Why not? I've been messing with that on my PC today. That's why this stuff is here. Trying to get things to work on it. Let's see. What else? I got a portable video game system that was made. They had this on discount, like 25% off. It was made to look like that system I just showed you, right? So that's nice, even though I already have a ton of these and I didn't need this. I just like the way it looks. Which is, like, I'm not trying to defend this. Like, this is exactly the stuff I tell people not to do. And here it's July and I've done it. And I've done a whole bunch of it. I even got a Famicom, a Family Computer Mini from... So this is the equivalent of the Nintendo Entertainment System, but it's the Japanese version. So it has hardwired controllers. They're not detachable, which is pretty inconvenient. And because this is the mini version and these controllers have to fit into the side of the mini console, these are really difficult to use. So this is really a shelf piece. Like it's not practical. And in terms of the games you can play, exactly the same stuff as this other one. Yeah, the US one. So anyhow, come on, get that in the center of the screen. I got these cords detached. So yeah, shopping. I just spent way too much on shopping. Just didn't pay any attention to it. I got smart lights. I bought $160 worth of smart lights. I can tell my bathroom to turn on now. I can dim my bathroom down to 5% if I don't want to hurt my eyes at night. That's pretty cool. So now pretty much every light in my condo is a smart light. They had a sale on those. I think they were $10 a piece. I'd been waiting for those to come down in price. The trip was fantastic. I just did everything the way I wanted to do it. I got a really nice Airbnb near the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Had air conditioning. I didn't walk everywhere. I didn't subway everywhere even. I used Uber. I even used Uber X a few times. I had my own car. None of that Uber pool stuff for the peasants on my vacation. Went to restaurants and didn't bother looking up the prices before I went there. I had avocado toast not once, but twice. The millennial financial plague avocado toast. I mentioned that stuff. I'm going to show you right here. This is like a picture one of my coworkers took of my desk at work. That's how much stuff had been delivered, and more was delivered after this. So it was totally a shopping month. It's not something that I want to repeat next month, but it's also not something that I feel terrible about. My food budget was roughly triple my food budget during other months. So yeah, really nice restaurants on that vacation. It was great. And then the crazy thing is I'm living in California, and you can see that the slice of my budget, the slice of my spending that's home related, is tiny. It's tiny. So that's cool, and that, of course, that has a lot to do with the condo being paid off. There's just not a lot to spend on it. All right, let's go back to what I wrote. I had to write it down ahead of time, otherwise I'd space out because I'm so tired. So, all right, let's talk about the damage now. Two big things jumped out at me when I did the final number analysis of how July was going to work out. Number one is that because I didn't do any of this with debt, I didn't buy any of the stuff on Amazon with debt, I didn't do any of the vacation stuff with debt, nothing that I did in July follows me into August. And so I can totally reset in August to save a lot more money because I don't have any financial obligations from July following me into August. Yes, there is some long-term opportunity cost. I need the square footage to hold this, video game system. So there is a cost to acquiring physical items. A carrying cost is what that's called. But for the most part, it's very easy for me to pivot and change in August. And this is because I have set up a very low burn rate. So paying off the condo, cutting my cell phone bill, moving out of that storage unit, getting rid of these fixed costs is what allows me to switch very quickly and have August be a much higher saving month than July. The second thing that I noticed after I added everything up was that I am still going to save a large fraction of my income in July. It's not as high as what I've saved in other months, for sure, but it is much, much higher than the national average. And why is that true? Well, it's primarily true because I have a high income. Like if I had a lower income, um, you wouldn't be able to do a really nice New York City trip and eat like you know, fixed course menu restaurants while ordering drinks and still have saved a high fraction of your income. The numbers just don't work out. When you look kind of further beyond that, the reason why I have a high income is because I decided for my career to go into a field and to go into a line of work where income was a consideration. I really love creative writing, and I could have gone into creative writing. I love music, and I was good at music, and I could have gone into music. But the reason why I didn't go into those was because it was important to me to go into a career with financial stability. And it was important to me to go into a career area where the wind would be at my back in terms of income. So that's what I did. And prioritizing that in your work life makes this stuff easy. And years down the road, it makes it even easier because when you go into a growing and economically growing field, your income is going to grow over 10 years in a way that it is not going to grow if you go into something that's stagnant. And so the fact that I still get to have a high savings rate, it also comes down to past actions, and it comes down to an attitude towards the role of a job, or the role of a career, the role of work in your life. There's a very, I guess, just distinct line, and people end up many times on one side or the other side of this line. And the line is that above everything else, you need your job to provide you enough money to pay for your current life and to pay for your future life after you're not able to work. And you have to first secure that and then go for passion. So some people think that they're like, of course I'm going to have to eat when I'm older. So of course my career needs to do that. If I can't do that, then it's not a job. It's a waste of time. But then there's a second group of people that says, just follow your passion and everything will work out. You know, you can go play a harmonica. Eventually, if your passion is playing the harmonica, eventually you'll be able to cover your retirement by playing the harmonica. But the truth is that doesn't always work out. Sometimes your passion is not going to cover your retirement. And so I encourage people, like, prioritize having enough income to pay for your old age in your career, and prioritize that above passion. Limit your career choices to the passions that might support that financial goal. Because you're going to get old. You're going to need the money. This stuff has to be done. And it's so much easier. I'm like a decade into my career now, and I'm just realizing, right, like after this vacation, it feels so amazing to me to go on this vacation and spend money and not even worry about spending the money. And I'm still coming out with a higher, like I'm still saving money at the end of the month, a lot of money. And my net worth actually increased over the time that I was on vacation. And yeah, that's a stock market fluctuation, right? That's not real. I'm not at that, I'm not at the level yet where I can just like not work and vacation New York and everything's fine. No, that's not what I'm saying. But I have enough investments now where the natural market noise is within the same order of magnitude as what the vacation cost me over that period of time. So it just feels amazing that I was able to do this, to go on the vacation and to spend money on all this stuff. And it's not like I'm not like damaged and I have to recover from it. It's not like a wound that I now have to go and fix. Yeah, I don't want to, keep spinning this way into July and September and for the rest of the year. But it was okay to do that for 1 month, and I planned it. And that was one reason, I've discussed this before, it was one reason why I went so hardcore in the first months of the year, is because by doing that in the first months of the year, it made, this month less damaging when you average it out. So, yeah, that's what I wanted to say with this video. It's the position I'm in is awesome, but I didn't get here for free. I got here by specifically planning a bunch of things, by thinking about this for a long period of time, and by not going on vacation and not going out to restaurants, the other 90% of the year, pretty much. And there's a time period that you have to spend sometime early in your life before you're 40. That's 5 years, 10 years to get your financial house in order. And there's no avoiding it. And it's not a financially fun time period. But once you go through it, everything gets a lot easier. And that was July in some ways feels better than July last year. I paid off the condo in June or May of last year. So June and July should have felt like, whoa, I have no mortgage. But actually July of this year feels better, I think, than paying off the condo, because I was able to do things with my family, and because I can see how the culmination of all my past behavior, not just, focusing on the mortgage, puts me into a financially really strong position. And I really want this experience for other people, because it's for me, I think this is a little different. And it's kind of weird, but I want it for other people. But to get there, I know that you have to take a very conservative perspective on your finances for 5 years, for 10 years, to get everything, lined up into a really solid defensive winning position. Okay, that is it for 5-Year Club video number 201. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope this was... there's actually 2 other things I want to... Yeah, I'm a space cadet because I haven't slept. 2 other things I wanted to cover. Number 1 was Mint, what are you thinking? All right, I got this email from Mint.com, and we just looked at Mint.com. That's where I got my my category breakdown. Ride your rocket score all the way to financial freedom. Your credit score helps determine how far in life you'll get. Keep it shipshape by checking where you are each month. Small steps like this help you take giant leaps when you're ready to switch jobs or get a new home. Give me a freaking break. None of this had anything to do with credit. This is just a bunch of marketing bullshit so that Mint.com can sell you a credit card based on some increase in credit score. It is such trash. It's foul. And they put some cartoon rabbit at the top. I'll never stop being angry about this stuff. I get these emails, and shyster, I'm not even sure what the right word to use is. It's fraud. It's not the right word. It's misinformation. It's propaganda. Propaganda is the right word. So anyway, I found this one particularly amusing just because it's so blatant. Ride your rocket score all the way to financial freedom. You cannot get financial freedom from a credit score. They have nothing to do with each other. Financial freedom, you need a big pile of money. And a big credit score does not give you a big pile of money. It gets you access to lower interest debt. They're completely different. All right, and the final thing I wanted to talk about, and um, I keep coming back to this over and over again. I think the last time I really thought about it in the last few days or so is I was at this airport and 8 flights had been canceled at this airport because of the weather. And so you can imagine, 1,000 people had to be rebooked somehow. And flights were getting delayed. Like they would be rebooked onto a flight, and that flight would get delayed for 6 hours. And the flight would go out onto the tarmac and try to take off, but they couldn't. So they would sit on the tarmac for 2.5 hours, which is like a legal limit. Then they would bring the people back into the airport and then start the whole process of reboarding the plane an hour later or whatever. And so you can imagine that this whole thing is super irritating to people, right? Because your flight's canceled. You might need a hotel room. They don't do any hotel reimbursement stuff. So if you're in New York City, you got to pay for a hotel room. That's like $150 for one night, out the window. And so there's a lot of irritated, stressed out people at the airport. A lot of times it's like 5, 6 in the morning when some of this stuff is happening. And it's in those times when you really get the opportunity to observe how people behave under stress and how people cope with stress. So for me, it was very interesting because I've reached the point where I just automatically now, like, in these situations, I deal with my own stress by observing how people deal with theirs. I just, all these situations, I try to turn it into me observing people dealing with stress. And the lens through which I observe that are these. So this is George Valent, I don't know. He was the guy who did the Harvard Grant study, and he came up with a list of defense mechanisms. I'm sure I've said all this already, and that's fine. It's a very valuable thing. This is the lens that I view defensive coping through. When I watch people, I'm basically looking to see if I can identify, are they exhibiting any of these coping mechanisms, these defense mechanisms, and if so, what level are they at? How crazy is this person? Or mature, because some people are very, very skilled at this stuff. Most people are not. But if you haven't looked at this list enough to kind of memorize the options, then it can be a lot more confusing when you see stressed out people interacting as to what's going on. Once you kind of memorize the list and you can put labels to the behavior, then you can quickly kind of see, like, oh, the person is projecting or acting out, or exhibiting a immature defense mechanism versus neurotic versus mature. And I think that when you identify somebody as coping with things in a bad way, but they're coping with an immature mechanism, you don't need to be as mad at them, because you know that, like, they're suffering from the fact that they are using this mechanism. Like, people talking with gate agents, I mean, that's like the classic thing at the airport, is the person's really irritated that their flight was canceled. The gate agent knows there are no other flights out today, and the person thinks that if they keep talking to the gate agent, then magically, like, a new flight is going to appear, and it doesn't. So yeah, if you identify somebody with an immature one, you can think to yourself, like, oh, well, their behavior is obnoxious, but they haven't developed yet in that area. And on the other hand, you want to look for mature coping mechanisms in yourself. You want to say, I'm feeling stress right now, and I know that to deal with stress in a productive way. My mouse is like disappearing here. This is really irritating. All right. To deal with stress in a productive way, I'm going to need to use, one of these coping mechanisms. So I'm going to need to figure out how to use altruism in this situation, or I'm going to need to figure out how to plan better in the future, or plan for my current future, or I'm going to need to crack a joke or go exercise or, whatever it is. For sure, I think the planning, this is what I use to get me through the travel thing, is I worked on gathering as much data as I could to develop as many contingency plans as I possibly could. And I ended up making it back to California at the same time I would have before, but just minus the sleep. And it ended up happening in a really random way. I mean, when I was in New York, I thought I was going to go eat Indian food and sleep on this bunk bed at an Airbnb because I had missed my standby, and the next standby was overbooked, and I missed that one too. And then, even if I was able to get to Denver, there was bad weather in Denver, so getting the second standby would have been really difficult. So I was like walking out of the terminal, and they called my name over the loudspeaker, and it turns out that a standby flight I had been on 6 hours ago and been rejected from had a 6-hour delay. And some people had gotten off that flight to try other methods, and because they got off the flight, I was able to get on the flight. And then, I made it to Dallas, and Dallas had decent weather, so I was able to then call Southwest and find a flight that was different from the flight they had me standing by on, but had available seats and was actually closer to San Jose, because it was San Jose. And that worked out well. So yeah, this anticipation coping mechanism, gathering information, replanning, gathering information, that's like a huge one for me. And humor is also big for me, but for sure, oh man, there were some people in that airport who were saying either racist stuff or talking about Americans in a really rude way. Just like saying like all Americans this, all Americans that. And it's like, look, I don't even care if some Americans are this or some Americans are that. As an American, like, you sound like an asshole in an American airport talking about Americans. And trust me, I am not like coming at this from the angle of like, all Americans are perfect and everything is great, and I'm not coming at that at all. It's like any country, you go to a Norwegian airport and you start talking about Norwegians as if all Norwegians are one way or the other, you just sound like an asshole. And when you've been in an airport for like 9 hours and someone sits next to you and is talking really loud about that, you're just like, I need a coping mechanism now because I'm about to tell this guy off, which I didn't. But it's still, you get to suffer. You get to suffer kind of alone in your head, or I guess you can just walk away, right? Which is eventually what we did. But walking away in a busy airport has its own consequences because then you don't have a seat anymore. Blah 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 blah. All right, that is the end of video number 201. I would encourage you to go look up defense mechanisms on Google. Go look it up on Wikipedia. Specifically, check out George Vallant's work, Triumphs of Experience, the Men of the Harvard Grant Study, an excellent book on it. And yeah, get these words and get these patterns into your brain so that when you are in stressful situations, you can observe what's going on, how people are dealing with it, who is skilled, who is not. And in doing so, you can more quickly put two and two together later, just throughout your life, making good, solid, rational choices in situations that are really stressful, in situations where people might be yelling at each other. Okay, that is it. Have a fabulous evening.